Our cover story tonight is a story that touches almost everyone, yet very few want to confront it. The global refugee crisis. Almost all of us know at least one person who's had to leave his or her home in search for a better life. And I'm not talking about economic migrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about refugees. Many seek asylum. Many more just sneak in and try to weave themselves into the local fabric. Some get aid, most don't. They do menial jobs. And over time, they hope to be citizens of the host country, of leading a better life. India is teeming with such people. The world over, in fact, there are more than 285 million refugees, according to official figures. Not much attention was paid to them as they were bracketed under humanitarian challenges. Suddenly, they're headliners. Illegal immigration is now a burning political issue around the world, and illegal immigrants are under the spotlight. Europe is trying to deal with a major influx from Africa and war-torn countries in West Asia. India's latest headache is the influx of Rohingyas from Myanmar. The government wants to deport 40,000 of them. Rohingya Muslims who've been living illegally in India. They escaped Rakhine in Myanmar after violence broke out. India has been home to millions of illegal immigrants from Bangladesh as well. In the US, the Trump administration has sparked another storm. More than 2,000 children who were crossing the border between America and Mexico have been separated from their families. The idea is to punish the parents who are crossing illegally, but the children invariably suffer. The Trump administration is facing an extraordinary backlash over what it calls his zero-tolerance policy. The president was heckled by a woman. She shouted an expletive at him, and this happened when the US president was inside the Capitol building for a meeting with lawmakers. Take a look.
Quit separating the children. Mr. President, don't you have kids? Don't you have kids, Mr. President? How would you like it if they took your kids? Put them in cages.
Stop separating our children.
How would you guys like it if you separated your kids?
Despite the outrage, political criticism and global condemnation, no change has been ordered in enforcement measures. They're in talks. Reports say that many South Asians have also been detained by American officials. More than 100 of them are believed to be locked inside a federal prison in Oregon. Most of these detainees are believed to be Indian. Local media reports say that Democrats sent a delegation of congressmen to tour this detention center. They were angry over the conditions in which these immigrants are being kept. One lawmaker was quoted as saying that the detainees are locked up inside small cells for up to 22 hours a day. This crisis has generated tremendous commentary. But let's pause a minute to think about what this separation would mean for those little children caught in the crossfire. What happens to children who've been taken away from their parents, who've been handed over to strangers in a foreign land? What impact could trauma like that have on a child?
Scared and alone in a foreign land. These immigrant children are going through much more than you and I can even imagine. And this is not a temporary phase. Separation can have long-lasting impact on these children.
That family unity and keeping parents and children together is vital for the resilience of children. And separating parents and children is absolutely devastating. It's very harmful both for the short term and in terms of its long-term effects even on the neurodevelopment of children, and can result in impairment of their social, emotional, and cognitive functioning.
It affects children in more ways than one. Not only is their mental health affected, their social behavior also takes a hit. One study found many refugees suffered from depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Some children may be lucky and may be reunited with their families over a period of time. But even if that is true, some of them may never be able to get over the demons of the past.
Negative impact on functioning of children can even continue into adulthood. It can impact their academic achievement. It can have a long-term impact on their ability to have normal attachment to family members and loved ones. And the psychological quality of life is devastated.
In the last 6 weeks, 2,000 children have been separated from their families along the United States-Mexico border. and the number is steadily increasing. Videos and images of children in metal cages, their wailing and crying has already created a huge outcry in the country. But will the Trump administration pay heed to their pleas? Bureau Report, WION.
What Trump is doing is inhuman. He says he's only implementing the law, a law that he did not write or pass. That was done by Bill Clinton. So here's the other side of the story. Why have governments been forced to look for quick solutions to this immigration crisis? Why and how is it boiling over? What's the public sentiment in these countries? How much of what is said about the impact of immigration is true? Are people buying conservative rhetoric? Do immigrants harm or help the country they arrive in? Let's show you one example. This happened in Berlin. A 19-year-old Syrian refugee was caught on camera attacking a man who was wearing a skull cap. In the video clip, the refugee can be seen lashing out at the victim with a belt. This incident happened in April this year. It was filmed by the victim on his phone. This case shocked people in Germany and around the world, sparking fears of growing anti-Semitism in Germany and a migrant-led crime wave. The accused is now facing trial. So is the German government, in a manner of speaking. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, is in the dock for taking in so many immigrants. She made a bold move 3 years back when she accepted 10,000 refugees from North Africa and West Asia. The move backfired. She faced an election upset and took 5 months to stitch a coalition government. She now faces a test for survival. She's promised a solution within 2 weeks, but a survey conducted today shows 70% Germans believe Angela Merkel will not be able to deliver. So why do locals hate immigrants? Because taxpayers do not want to support refugee families. They should be able to sustain themselves, they say. Another worry is crime. A government-commissioned study earlier this year found that migrants may be responsible for the recent rise in violent crime in Germany. Young male migrants have been blamed for more than 90% of the rise in crime rate in that country. An Interior Ministry report says suspected crimes by refugees rose to 1,74,438 cases in the year 2016. This report says that male migrants falling in the 14 to 30 age category are most likely to commit violent crime. Similar reports have emerged from Sweden and Italy. Since 2015, more than 1 million migrants and refugees have entered Germany. Many of these fled from war zones in Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria. But the influx has sparked tension, both social and political. Attacks on women, allegedly by men who appear to be North African or Arabic, fueled the rise of anti-immigrant sentiment. The attacks in Cologne and other German cities sparked concerns. The lot of the refugees is only worse. A United Nations report says at least 1 in 5 refugees or displaced women face sexual violence. More and more countries are closing the door. The US took only 21,000 refugees last year, the lowest in its history. As we slam these policies of turning away illegal immigrants, we forget what a large wave of them means for the locals. With economies struggling and jobs pie shrinking, people do not want to support outsiders. The problem is an incoherent policy. The problem is insufficient sharing of responsibility. The problem is inadequate resourcing. No one's addressing this. But here is a ray of hope. With 2.7 million people, Jordan is home to the largest number of refugees in the world, followed by Turkey and Pakistan. How do you picture these refugees in these countries? They're often forced to spend years waiting in camps, relying only on assistance. But in Jordan, a group of Syrian refugees met the need of the hosting communities. They started upcycling or creatively reusing. They collect waste and then they turn it into creative objects to sell. Our West Asia Bureau Chief Daniele Pagani sent us the story.
Jordan has the second largest number of refugees in the world as a share of its population, 89 for every 1,000 Jordanians. There are more than 700,000 registered refugees, but the real figure is more than 1.4 million. Half of them are children. Syrians make the largest community. Many Syrians have spent years suspended in the limbo that is a refugee camp, safe but with nothing to do but wait. 80% of them live below the poverty line. Despite years going by, memories of the war never leave.
I am sorry if I'm crying, but it is because I'm remembering all of the horrific situations that I passed through. There were people dying in front of us. One day I witnessed the Syrian army capture 2 young men.
For some of the refugees in Jordan, things have changed. The NGO Action Against Hunger came up with an idea to help refugees get a job and become an added value for the host communities. It's called upcycling, turning waste into creative ideas. We visit their headquarters to know more. Waiting for us there is Sajida, the program manager.
At the beginning of the project, we faced a lot of difficulties with the communities in terms of accepting working in waste sector. So it was not only the rejection of the workers themselves, that they should go outside, they should do some cleaning campaigns, working in front of their communities, of their neighbors, relatives, but also it was hard for the cooperatives, for the local communities, that they will work in waste, cleaning waste or sorting waste.
But a job is a fundamental part of everyone's life. The possibility to earn a salary gives the 1,200 people the project employs independence and a temporary work permit.
It was hard for someone who has been here for 7 years now. I did not really mingle with anyone until I worked with Action Against Hunger. I never really thought about going out. I was scared to go out.
The project also helps local communities get rid of the huge amount of waste on the streets.
Actually, waste is a major is a major problem in Jordan, and it has started to increase recently, especially after Syrian crisis, after receiving the fleets of Syrians. So, especially in the northern of Jordan, Action Against Hunger, with the support of GIZ, we realized that Irbid, specifically in Irbid, the area there and the municipalities they are active, but also they need a lot of support in this regard.
Like Samira, other women are part of the project. Collecting and recycling waste makes them breadwinners, but in a largely conservative society, working in public is not easy.
As you probably know, that it's not easy for women, especially for women, to go outside and to work. So we tried as much as we can to provide some incentives to let them be fully involved in those activities. And to be honest, it was not easy for women to be part of this project.
But against all odds, they've made it.
We often focus on the tragedy behind the refugee journey, but that's only the beginning. After that, they end up in camps, informal or formal camps, and they end up waiting for weeks, for months, for years, waiting for their documents, waiting for permissions, waiting for a job, waiting to go back to their homes. And this atmosphere of waiting leads them to an extremely unhealthy inactivity, which often leads to depression. Projects all over the world which aims at getting them a salary, at giving them a job and forcing them to interact with the community which is hosting them are literally life-saving. From Amman, Jordan, Daniele Pagani for WION.